What if you only have 2 coordinate points and no graph? It's easy. You just use slope formula. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So you can make whatever y-axis, whatever x-axis, your y2, y1, x2, x1. So I'm going to make 10 my y2 and 6 my y1. X2 is going to be 5 and x1 is going to be the other 5. So what you do is you do y2 minus y1 like it says in the formula. So you would do 10 minus 6 over x2 minus x1, so it would be 5 minus 5. Notice that when you get the slope, it's 4 over 0. The denominator can't be 0 when you have a slope. It has to be any number, positive or negative, but it can't be 0. So in this case, there is no slope to the coordinate points 5, 10, and 5, 6. Alright, so in the previous problem I showed you what it would look like if there was no slope. Now let me show you what it would look like if there is a slope. So we're going to use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to make 20y2, 10y1, the other 10 will be x2, and then 9 will be x1. 20 minus 10 is 10, and 10 minus 9 is 1. So since there is a number besides 0, there will be a slope. So then you would divide 10 by 1, and that equals 10. So our slope here is 10. Alright, so I've already showed you how to find slope with 2 coordinate points, but now I'm going to show you how to find it on a graph. It's actually really easy. So you're going to use the formula rise over run to find m. So in this case our rise is 2 and our run is 1. Rise is just how many it takes to get up to the line of where the coordinate point is, and run is how many it takes to hit the actual point. So in this case we're going to do 2 over 1, which is our rise and our run, and you divide it. So 2 divided by 1 is 2. So our slope would be 2, as you can see. Okay, so you might be wondering, how do you know when a graph is positive and how do you know when a graph is negative? It's really easy. You just have to remember the 4 quadrants. First quadrant has a positive x and positive y-axis. Second quadrant has a negative x and a positive y-axis. Third quadrant has a negative x and y-axis. And the last but not least, fourth quadrant has a positive x but negative y-axis. Or you can just remember that a positive line goes straight up to the right and a negative line goes down to the left. That's all you need to know to decide if a graph is positive or negative.
Rate of change is a type of slope that is used in real problems or real measurable quantities. This problem would be a rate of change problem because you're measuring gas in the tank and miles traveled, which are both real-life quantities. If you're trying to find rate of change in a table, then you would have to find the change in the y and the change in the x. For example, in this table, the change of the y is 15 and the change of the x is 1. When you divide the two, then you would get 15. So the rate of change would be 15.
Direct variation 2.3. What is direct variation? Direct variation is when a relationship between two variables in which one is a constant multiple of the other. When one variable changes, the other one changes proportional to the first. A good example would be a bakery. For every cookie you have, you must multiply it by 20 cents. How to see if a table or a graph is a direct variation? If a graph is a direct variation, it will have a constant slope and will go through the origin, 0, 0. If a table is a direct variation, it will have a constant slope and it will start where x is 0 and y is 0. Take this graph for example. How would you find out if it is a direct variation? First we find if the line runs through the origin 0, 0, and it does. Secondly, we must find the slope of the line, and to find this we will use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. To do this, we find 2 coordinates on the line. We are going to use the points 1, 1, and 2, 2. So you get 2 minus 1 over 2 minus 1. You should get a slope of 1. So the graph is a direct variation. How would you find if this graph is a direct variation? First we check if they start where x is 0 and where y is also at 0. Secondly, we must check if the table has a constant slope. To find the slope, pick two sets of pairs and use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We will use the pairs 1, 1 and 2, 2, so it should be 2 minus 1 over 2 minus 1. So the slope of this table is 1. The table is a direct variation.
Slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is best used when you're given the coordinate point and the slope of a line. The formula for this is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. In the formula, x1 and y1 are the points given, and m is the slope of the line. The first and second step to solving these: first, you substitute y1, x1, and m for the point and the substitute. Then you use PEMDAS to solve, so you're getting rid of the parentheses. Then you use the inverse property of addition to isolate the y variable. Then, after you have that done, you just change it into standard form.
Now that you've watched our video, you know everything you need to know for Lesson 2.0 Linear Functions.